You're listening to Raconteurs News. It's Adams and Andy. Except 2018 going into 2018. This is live radio, people. What the BBC tell us isn't what the new want us to believe. Then just look at them and, think about who benefits. Because at the bottom of everything is somebody benefiting from something somewhere. And there's one thing for sure. It fucking ain't me.
It ain't you.
And it ain't you. And it's happening again. 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 Now, what's them to sign out then, innit? You get a dog, or a wolf, or a spider, or a snake. How can you get a snake to be the same species as a dog? It's easy. We call the species that bites you. Weird. That bites you. Yeah. That bites you. Okay. Yeah, you've got a choice. Yeah. Yeah, you've got a choice. Yeah. Yeah, you've got a choice. Yeah, you've got a choice. What? You want a punch in the face or a kick in the bollocks? So what did you want to talk about? Bollocks. Yes, Jason's bollocks. No bills of exchange. That's not much I'm interested in. You're not talking about the kind of intelligence when you see the exactly. All the thinkers. All the thinkers. All the thinkers. Which one of us are you going to propose to this evening? A lot of men who don't have sex. Yeah.
Good evening and welcome to Raconteurs News. It's the Tuesday edition. It's the 5th of March 2019 and we are on show 250. My name's Bruce Willis and I'm here, your host this evening. One of the hosts this evening. I hope you've had a good day. It's been a lively day for me. I've had quite a long day. This morning I went for my new the new suspension system, and I've got a nice thin new. In fact, I'll show it you. Me suspension system is nice and new and thin. There you go. It's a brand new one, and it's nice and snug, and it also means that I'll be able to wear trousers at some point. Dog's nicked me bleeding chair. Chuffing hellfire. Anyway, there you go. That's been my day this morning. I was there at 8:30 to have this fitted, and it's been okay. It's been a bit sore in around my knackers region, but apart from that, I'll be getting on with it. It'll take me a few days to get used to it, but it's all good. It's all good, as they say. Anyway, as usual, it's joining me. Good show last night for a lefty. Anyway, I mean, we're talking about Hitler. Dave Sumner probably would have been totally confused by yesterday's show, but I was listening. I was watching the Sheffield Derby, but I had it on at the side, and it was a really interesting show. And the host of that show, Paul Webster. How you doing, mate?
Hello. Yeah, it was a good show. I mean, considering that Dennis thought we weren't far left, and he was talking about somebody who was far left. Dave Sumner probably thinks that we loved it. I still can't get over the far left thing. That absolutely gobsmacked me, that one. But there you go. It was interesting. I don't think we even scratched the surface, to be fair, because there's so many correlations with that story and that event, and those events, we should say, as to where it's brought us to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was interesting. Anybody who's not heard it, have a listen back. I noticed it's provoked quite a few comments on the YouTube version of it. So have a quick look through them as well. All very interesting reading. It's show 250. And as it's show 250, we thought we would celebrate in style by not doing any work to organise a show, apart from to ring up a couple of our old partners in crime. and grab them and get them on. And I know everybody will be glad to hear from them as well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce. We'll go Adie first, because your mic's unmuted. Good evening, Adie. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Well, I'm like I say, I'm awesome. How's your health? First of all, let's just get the elephant in the room out of the way. First of all, how's your health?
Yeah, elephant. Cheers, mate. I know I've put a bit on. Yeah, I'm all right. I had another out operation a couple of weeks ago, and hopefully about another 10 weeks should be able to come off all the tablets and should be just pretty good, I hope. Anyway, it's looking good, better than the first one. So.
Well, that's it's a relief for all of us. I mean, I've been obviously in touch with you during that time, and we've all been concerned, and it's just shit goes off wheels, doesn't it? I mean, it's just us four. There's always somewhat. Webb is either off with his off work with his shoulder. Andy decides to run away to the circus and go and see some steam trains and stuff like that. And your heart condition, and of course my leggy falling off. Andy's with us as well. Andy Young, who used to be. This is the thing, you see. The other night. I was I sent Andy a message inviting him on, and I found out. He tells me, he says, "Oh, I'm on a Skype call now, talking to Webby and to Dinny." And you know that moment when you know that your current partner is chatting with your ex and you're not there. You know what I mean? It was pretty much like that, weren't it? And Andy, how you doing, mate? How's your retirement?
Well, I suppose I should start off with Tavares, comrades. Now you've gone all far left. Yes. Thoroughly enjoying my retirement. I suppose I should say, woo woo. Yeah, it's all great, mate. Enjoying having a look in at the shows now and again, and glad to see you chaps are carrying it on, and glad to see you. You know, the listeners are sticking around and you're gathering one or two new ones along the way. Yeah, it's all good.
All good. It is all good. It is all good. We're certainly enjoying it, aren't we, Webby? We're sort of trying to find our own little, our little. It's difficult when you get somebody new, especially after I've been sort of indoctrinated with you for all these years. For this last couple of years, that then getting used to somebody else's style and they have to get used to your style. It's all, but we're enjoying it, aren't we, Webby?
Yeah, like I said, you gave me a platform to get my information out a while back, and then to be able to come on every week and ram that information down everybody's throats, whether they like it or not, even if I was only ramming it down your throat, it was worth it. As long as we've got the ability and the time to do it, then we said even if I'm just talking to you, we're just talking to each other, we'd carry it on. But there's a little bit, maybe not many people are listening live, but you can see that the numbers are increasing. And we talked about that shadow banning before, and it seems to be. I mean, Dennis, just by his name and the videos he posted, he only lasted a few weeks on Facebook. So we know there's these little things that go on, but. Jason, you can only affect your world. We do share some of this reality, but you just change your feelings, change your world and how you feel about it, and see what happens. Miracles can happen,
Oh, yes, absolutely. Miracles can happen. Like some certain things might not get mentioned at some point. Yeah.
Well, listen,
I have not mentioned it.
No, but you know what? We are reminiscing. If it would be, would it be a crime if Andy actually had a clip ready to go, related to, say, some kind of tequila incident?
Never mind clips. I've got the full show. Just sit back, guys. I'll play the full 2 hours if you want.
Okay, I'm muted.
Yes, well, I think that's probably going to end up being just where it is at the moment, and not seeing the light of day until I'm dead. And then when I'm dead, you can just do what you want then, can't you? I don't care.
Well, here's the thing, you see, because when we used to go out on Spreaker, it went out on all different platforms like iTunes and Stitcher and Podcast-O-Matic, and I can't remember half the ones it did go out on. It's still there. You just got to look for it. But I didn't tell you that, folks.
Oh, Bruce, don't look happy.
Listen, I'm not bothered. I did what I did. I've got it. I've got a copy of it. Andy gave me a copy of it around about Christmas time, or perhaps just before Christmas time. But it was around about the time that Andy retired, and I've got a copy of it. But I daren't listen to it.
I was going to say, have you listened to it?
I really daren't. I really daren't. It's just like, you don't want to hear yourself being a wanker.
Oh, mate, somebody sent me a link to an interview I did back in 2013 on a radio station with I think it was a guy in Wales, and I could only listen to 30 seconds of it because I just slurred 30 seconds worth of sentences. I thought, fuck, I can't listen to that.
Well, it took me back to some of the old kind of cringy ones last night when you were talking to Dennis. Because I don't think he mentioned him by name, but he was talking about this guy who was in this special elite squad and blah, blah, blah. And he found some discs and he took them to this place and they had some more and they put them all together. And that was only John Irwin, wasn't it?
Oh, was that John Irwin? Oh, right. I didn't quite hear that. Now, John Irwin, if anybody's not heard of John Irwin is somebody who came on Raconteurs News quite a while ago, and you can still find it knocking about. Myself and him, we had a bit of a disagreement, and Andy was sort of there in the middle. I think they were a bit cringeworthy. That were one of the cringeworthy ones, weren't it?
Well, it was, because it was a bit of a weird setup. He said, "Oh, see, I told you you'd do that, Andy, because we set all this up." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Nothing to do with me." And then it kind of went really seriously, sharply downhill from there, didn't it?
It certainly did. Adie, you had your hand up, mate. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, I think the two words that you're looking for are a train crash.
Well, yeah, train crash, yeah. But come on, we are not, right, former mainstream. Our background is not in mainstream media, right? Our background, this is just us. We're just you can see me. I think somebody made a comment about us, Webby, about the decor in the house.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
I mean, come on, for God's sake. Look at that. That's classy wallpaper. That was $4.99 a roll.
Listen, in Delboy's flat, that looks brilliant.
You don't have to push the bolt out in Yorkshire.
Oh, and of course we've got the new reclining settee there, so that's just come about. So we're not getting much done when we don't have to do all.
Brilliant.
So what's going on in the world, boys? What craziness have we had this today? Has there been any crazy today? I don't watch the news.
See, no, this isn't fair because you don't watch the news. Andy doesn't watch the news, and I'm pretty sure that A doesn't really bother with anything. So you're gonna tell me to start talking about stuff.
Well,
here you go.
Andy's got something.
I've got some news.
Go on.
It snowed in Nova Scotia this week, and they've had quite a bit of snow. So that's not off mainstream bullshit. That's real fact that I got by talking to Ricky Dwyer. So Ricky and all your friends out, I know Ricky will be listening because he's busy looking after his grandchildren today. So I'd like to say hello to all the hillbillies that are listening in Macan. And sorry if you find that term offensive, but it's how Ricky refers to himself. So I know that Mark often has a listen in. So if you're listening, Mark, get your computer fixed. We'll have a catch up again sometime soon. All those guys that did all the work with it, great work with Rick Simpson. Hats off to you, fellas.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Hi to you, Ricky, over there in Canada, and I hope the snow's not too deep. I'm glad we don't get. I'm glad we haven't got any here, or we haven't had any here, really, have we, of any significance this year? But we've had some very good, nice weather, and it's not been bad today as well.
Well, didn't you notice when we had that hot spell last week, there was people posting photographs online at memory of a year ago, and it was like everything had come to a stop because we'd had a, what was it, beast from the east snow blizzard, and we got about 1.5 inches of snow in some places.
So where do we draw the line with what is going on? Because people who've spoken to me recently, they think that they say you see conspiracies in everything. All it needs is two people to collude is a conspiracy, and there's things that are being conspired over that maybe seem unrelated, but when you start to look at the things on a bigger picture, you wonder, you know, once, twice, maybe 3 times you could say coincidence, but when you're seeing it every day, it's a pattern. There's something not right, and people are looking for answers. Some of the stuff that I posted about council tax, people are getting completely the wrong end of it. They're thinking that your domestic property is now commercial because an act said so. It doesn't work like this. And people are fucking other people up because people won't go and do the damn research. They just listen to something or hear something and push it together, and they say, oh, that fits me, I'll carry on paying. Well, there's people who can't. There's people who have died. There's people who've killed themselves because of council tax that they couldn't afford to pay in a debt-based economy where you can't. This has got to stop, this stupidity, this mentality that goes around talking about money. Rubbish. Can't do it anymore, boys.
Is that a promise?
No. I promise. Where's my promissory note?
I promise to shut the fuck up. I'll get one of them notes with a picture on it.
Well, it's only upon the demand, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Pay the bearer upon demand. Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. How's your business going, Adie? Your work, your line of work. You're pretty much on that, aren't you?
What I'm finding, I mean, a lot of my customers are, many of them are not working. Many of them are relying on a welfare state that's designed to fuck them over. And
entire systems like that.
Yeah, of course it is. But what I am finding is that a couple of years ago, if I was to drop what I'd call an elevator statement, a one-liner to see if I could spark some interest, I would probably get nothing for, I don't know, a week of doing that. And then probably on the 8th day, somebody might go, what do you mean? And you might get a bit of interest. Now I'm finding probably twice a day, somebody will go, oh, what do you mean? I've heard a bit about this. What's all that about? And, you know, you can, I hate the wake people up thing, but people are starting, Webby, at the beginning, you said you can only make a difference to your own life. And I think when we're trying to get other people at least to look at this sort of stuff, it has to be something that's relevant to them.
Yeah.
And the easy one that I've found is TV license.
Yeah,
and you do get the stop question, which is how do you get away with not paying that? And to be fair, I always use an analogy that Jason gave me a long time ago, and that is, right, you know, all Jason did for a start was work out how not to get raped. So rather than ask the rapist, you know, why don't we have a look and say, hang on a minute, how's the rapist, you know, how have we managed to not be raped? And once you can kind of get somebody to change the way of thinking. But what I find is once, pretty much like for me, once there's that first domino falls, and that is Nick and David Icke saying, once that first domino falls, it falls. For whoever's into this, or is going to be. I was late in from work tonight because one of my customers asked me a question. I gave him an answer and then a little bit on the end of it. And before I knew it, we were into all sorts of stuff and he was starting to get it. I left him with 2 or 3 video things to watch on YouTube. And since then, I've had 3 phone calls off him.
Well, this is what is happening, Ed. I mean, you said yourself to me when we were talking, you said yourself that you hated Jason for waking you up, for working in a monetary system, because you work with cash, you work with money. Well, not money, you work with cash. But fact is, you'd worked with that cash all those years and you couldn't see what was staring you right in the face. And then when it slapped you across the face and kicked you in the balls, it was Jason's fault. It was that knee-jerk reaction. How dare you fucking destroy my foundations? You're attacking the foundations of my life here.
Well, for 20 years, I worked in the banking, finance and insurance industry. And I always knew there was something wrong. I didn't know what it was. So it just kind of... And anyway, long after I'd left that industry, Jason and I were, still friends and that. And he kind of gave me the kick up the arse that I needed. And it was the looking at myself and thinking, I think I'm a reasonably intelligent guy. Not because I can pass an exam, because that's no measure of how intelligent somebody is. That's just being able to regurgitate something you've memorized. But, I'm not thick, I'm not stupid. And yet here I was, for 20 odd years, making a lot of assumptions, assuming that the government really did make the money. Because when you're doing all your banking and your insurance exams, which get bigger and bigger and bigger every year, they just leave you to assume that sort of thing. So once I'd left the industry and then found out that actually all the assumed bits, which were the foundation for everything else, made the whole thing complete bollocks.
We nearly got me off on a wrong track there, Ray, because when you started talking about that, I thought what you actually said was, I'm dropping some of these one-liners trying to spark a bit of incest. And I thought, he's moved back to Lincolnshire again.
The trouble is you know what sort of shit Aid is into. You don't know whether you've actually heard wrong, do you?
Yeah, you don't know what you're going into at all.
I just thought he'd moved back to Lincolnshire and he'd gone to one of them villages where everybody's got 6 fingers and 2 heads, like.
No, you're talking about Norwich.
Well, when it gets a bit flat, it all gets a bit, it's a bit confusing. You're not really sure where Lincolnshire ends. And
oh, wait, hang on a bit. You're bringing up flat. Are you entertained, Jason?
I have got no idea why I said Norwich. I could have said anywhere, but it just came into my head. So if there's anybody from Norwich, I happen to like Norwich. It's a nice place.
It is a nice place. I like Norwich as well. I've been to Norwich. It's a cunt to get to, but once you're there, it's a nice place. Let's say hello to some of the people in the chat room. Dean Yates is in there. Johnny Jamshovel. Good evening, Johnny. Super Leeds. Paula B. New Being. Hi, Jace. Thanks for doing this show. You are welcome. I'll be doing it anyway. Yes, Norwich is better than Ipswich, says Society of the Spectacle. Dinny's in there as well. Webby, thanks for doing the show. New Being, yes, thank you, Webby. We've got some great people in the chat room as usual. If you've got anything that you want to ask anybody in the chat, Steve Turgoose is in there as well, and I know Steve's got a show on a Saturday night, so check that out as well. So if you've got anything that you want to ask us, I'm going to be trying to monitor the chat room tonight. I'm hoping to a little bit better, and hopefully if there's any questions or anybody or any subjects that you want us to talk about, then just stick them in there. I mean, like I say, it's Raconteurs News. It's our 250th show. At least it's the show that's numbered 250, because we did quite a few that weren't numbered, and they were Raconteurs News specials and Raconteurs extras and stuff like that. But this is the show 250. So
and we've had some withdrawals.
Have we really?
Have we not withdrawn some shows?
Oh, well, we've withdrawn 1 or 2, haven't we?
Yeah.
I know that there's obviously the tequila one, which was very, very clearly Andy's fault. Well, he was the main presenter. He failed to control me. You know, what can you do?
Well, I did say, Jason, how about just kind of winding down a bit? The tequila seems to be taking hold a bit. You spit your dummy out a bit. So I'm pleased I didn't say it earlier, else I'd have been on my own. Or maybe that might have been a good thing. But is what it is. Like you say, we're not, no training. We just thought
It's not just that, Andy. All three of us, four of us, sorry, all four of us around that time and bits leading up to it and everything, all of us were going through some really heavy stuff in our lives. There's a lot of stuff going on, and they are coping mechanisms. If I hadn't have stopped drinking when I did, God knows where I'd be. Things weren't good, and my head wasn't clear. When I was sober, my head wasn't clear, and then when I wasn't at work or anything, the first thing I wanted was a drink. Not saying I wanted it, I just thought I'll have a drink. I wasn't waking up in the morning and wanting a drink, but do I really get to that point? I needed to say, I need to know whether I can stop this.
It's interesting, though. I mean, we've all had our down times, the times where we found it mentally challenging. You know, throughout the 3 years or so that we've been on. And I know me and you have spoke about it, Adie, because Adie, we're being local to me, sometimes pops in and we do sit and talk, and I know he's been through a difficult time these last few months, and he knows I've been through a difficult time, and we try to help each other. Adie, how are you getting on? How are you getting on now? Are you coping okay? And are you? Because you were. I know that you were. I hope you don't mind speaking about this. But I just want, because you know, if you can explain how you got through it, you can help other people. Perhaps somebody who's listening now, who's going through the same thing. They're having these. They're not. I wouldn't say bad thoughts, but it's just that there's something that they're down. It's just, they can't. A cloud is above their head, and that's how I feel. How I felt at sometimes. But how are you now, Ada?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all right. My ex decided 2 or 3 years ago that I wasn't going to be exactly that, her ex. The family had got a little dog that I was incredibly attached to. In September, she moved miles and miles away, other end of the country. So that connection with that dog went, so that knocked me for 6. I then got my heart thing going on and whatever.
But Adie, just let me just interrupt. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But what would you say to people? I know the answer to this, but what would you say to people who would say to you, "It's just a dog"?
It's my best mate.
That's it, innit? That's it.
I could never have a conversation with that dog. I could never have a conversation with a dog, but he and I understood each other better than any two humans ever could. And in answer to your question, you said, how do you get through whatever it is you're going through? And that's the answer. You've got to go through it. You can't go around it. You can't pretend it doesn't happen. You can't drink your way past it. You can't smoke your way past it. And you can't pretend it's not happening. Because whether you want to or not, shit happens. And if you don't go through it, you don't know how to cope with it. And if you never learn how to cope in those circumstances, you'll never be stronger. That's
the whole point. You've got to get through. You've got to get through it because it's coming. I did everything I could to not walk this path. It wasn't. It's not a path I've gone. Hey, look at this. This is sunshine and lollipops. Let's skip it. It doesn't work like that. It's just that the things that come to you in life. I particularly found that the stuff that woke me up the most was the most painful, unfortunately. And a lot of the stuff was cut into the bone, especially when you bring in the factor of learning that my parents taught me to go into this system. The education system bolstered that and said, this is life, this is how it works. And the way I was taught to operate within this system actually fucks me up the arse. And I don't understand why people would want to attack me for telling them that, other than they don't understand it, and it is shaking the foundations of what they've built their life on, because the monetary system isn't what we think it is. And people are telling me now that, I've said we need to take control of the money supply and print our own money and put the credit out within the nation of the labour. Well, if you increase the money supply, no, you're not increasing. Stop talking about it. Look at what I've written. Yeah. Read it. Go and read. Get your bingo ready. Go and read the bills of exchange. Do this. Don't keep coming on and looking stupid, because I'm that confident with that stuff now that I'm not going to debate it anymore. People have got to go and research it and either try it or carry on in the system. I really don't give a fuck anymore. If those who have eyes will see it and those who have ears will hear, those are the ones that will make any difference. By the way, Cookie wants to know if your vest is licensed.
Paul, the thing is, I whenever I look at Facebook, I see people telling you you're talking bollocks. But we just looking down the chat room earlier, I saw that I think it was Dean Yates said he used the bills of exchange to great effect with Lowell's and fucked them right off. So it does work.
It's everything, Andy. It's everything.
I know other people that are using it, but also just looking down the chat room, Super Leeds asked what might be a very pertinent question. He says if it's not too personal, Webby, when was your last drink? And he also said that he wasn't sure things would carry on last year, the way it was going, and he wants to thank us all for keeping it going.
Being honest, my last drink was 4 weeks ago when my auntie died, and I battered 8 cans of Stella and paid for it for 2 days. But other than that, it was a year.
Awesome.
It was over a year. It was October 2017 when I stopped.
I'll be honest, mate. I can't praise you enough for what you've done. I was very concerned about where it was going, because you know we all know what we went through there, and I could see what you was going through. I knew perhaps a lot more than people on the outside, and I was really worried about you. And I know when I tried to address that with you, I think things got a bit fraught between us, but happily we passed that stage, and there is no tension between us. And I'm just so proud of you, what you've achieved in that last year, Paul.
I appreciate the words, Andy, but when you brought that up, I wasn't ready to look. I wasn't ready to look at myself like that, because I was trying to survive. I mean, somebody asked me a question just before Christmas, because I was posting about, council tax is a commercial property tax. You need to read this. And somebody who's well known to us, came on and said, well, you've been talking about this for 5 years now or so. Why have you not, how come you've not, it was like, why have you not taken it further? And my answer was, because for 10 years, I've nearly died twice, and I wanted to try and stay alive. And the factor is, Andy, I've said to you so many times about these people who got into council tax hearings. I have no contract. I'm a free man. That fucked everybody up for council tax, because we could have got them bare bones years ago. And I know from the cases that we're working on now with council tax, which we're in tomorrow. Bloody hell, what was that?
Oh, sorry, it's Skype notifications.
I know that this case has gone through before. We know where this is going, and it's a cracking case. It's going to be really interesting. But it's like people say, why have you not done this? You've been talking about this. You should. Where's the proof? Go and do it. Go and do it. Go and read it. Go and find it out. Understand how it works. 3 people contacted me yesterday. They were all doing things that they said were related to what stuff I'd done. One was sending the 3 letters off for a bill that he's got a remedy to. I'm going, do you not see how in the legal world, when you start saying, prove I've got a contract with you, when they've sent you a bill with a remedy attached, when they do that, why are you arguing with them? There's no point. You're looking childish. You're acting silly. The 3 letter stuff works for certain things, but you've got a remedy. Why not use it? You owe us this money. There's a check, and we'll clear it for you. Just put your signature on it. That's how easy it's meant to be. But as I keep saying, these utility companies seem to be putting people into the most uncomfortable position for the people possible, and then walking away, which is normally with gas. It's a pay-as-you-go meter where you've got to pay for it before you get it. The burden of proof position means you've got to now sue that company to force them to fulfil their obligations for a non-commercial agreement under utilities and the bills of exchange. But nobody knows that. The companies that you're dealing with don't know that. People are ringing customer services and saying, I've got a check here, and well, we don't accept that. Why would you ring customer services? They're not going to tell you. They won't even know. You've got to start hitting the head office, the legal departments, and the chief financial officers. They're the ones that are going to rack with these, because you take them to court saying, you must operate under the bills of exchange. It's global commerce. You can't set debt off and manage debt without it. So what is going on? It's the theft of equity. It's quite obvious.
Skillful. You know, Webby, we were talking about depression and mental health and stuff, and you still get it to bills of exchange. You know,
there isn't a conversation, mate. I've not come across a conversation I can't do it with you.
Can you try?
No.
Can I just change the subject there? There's something I did want to bring up tonight, and it's actually been posted in the chat. A message from Owen over there in Portugal, who's been on the show quite a few times, telling us about his off-grid lifestyle over there. He's been through a hell of a rough time in this last, probably year, 18 months. And Owen says, everybody involved with RN, presenters, guests, chat room, family, you all have kept me together. Love you, brothers and sisters. And he did send me a message the other day, telling me that I don't want to say too much because I don't want to speak out of turn. He told me that things are taking a good turn very recently. Things are looking up for him, and he wanted to thank all of us for keeping him going through those dark times. So you get messages like that, and it kind of makes you think, well, yeah, we're not just talking to ourselves and just talking shit, are we? Obviously, it makes a difference to some people's lives. So,
well, can I just? Well, there's a couple of things in what you've just been on about, and that is that all the stuff that Webby spouts about and the stuff that I go on about, and Jason and Andy. What I find myself feeling like is an alien in a world that doesn't work the way my brain does. Because my brain works in a massive sense of what's right and what's wrong. I know Andy's does, I know Jason's does, and Webby's. And the way we end up where we are is because something inside us triggers that. And somewhere deep inside, we know that what's happening to us is wrong.
But there's a trigger point, isn't there, Aid? There's a trigger point that, like, Jason triggered you.
Yeah, there is. But you end up feeling like an alien living in a world that doesn't understand you. Yeah. Even though you understand the world that you're living in. And how it does work against how it's supposed to work and how it appears to work for those of the other people who don't see the world the way that you do. So there's all this conflict, and there's no wonder we all end up. I can go to my bin now and I can pull out 2 empty bottles of bourbon, right? Yeah. That I've probably got rid of in the past 6 or 7 days. And sometimes it is I don't know, and you end up living as a single guy rather than in a relationship or whatever. But the bottom line is, you cannot ignore what you naturally are inside. And I feel that I'm lucky because somehow I've managed to discover what I am inside.
And that again, Adie, like I said, it comes from something that either triggers or it normally comes from a painful experience where you learn something really fundamentally to your core. It was like when I went to court over the house. It was that first question, which wasn't a naive question. It was it was like basically to the judge, can you ask him where he claims to have authority? I've told him that this shouldn't happen. Where is the authority? Yeah. And thinking, not that I was clever, because I'd just read. I just thought, there's no authority here. Administrative court, I don't wish to participate. They have no authority. I thought, this is going to be easy. And then police arrive. And that starts to shake. the foundations, and then not going on to touching onto the monetary stuff that my mum and dad taught me. That's my foundational experience for this world starting to shake, and that's why people attack you, because they don't want you to burst their bubbles and shake their foundations. I didn't have a fucking choice, Ed.
Exactly, no, and it kind of comes and bites you. I mean, in one sense, I was quite lucky because I chose it, but once you half know something, you know it, and it's, the dominoes are going to fall. But the world, I've got a neighbour who couldn't believe that I knocked on her door and said, I see you've got a little dog. If you want a doggy sitter, I miss my little doggy because he's now living at the other end of the country. If you want, I'll look after your dog while you're at work if I'm on a day off. This is 2 weeks ago. And you know what she said to me yesterday? She said, I can't believe that you knocked on my door. She says, it's like you're a guardian angel. I went, no, I'm not. This is just me doing something good for you because I can, but you doing something good for me, letting me babysit your dog because I miss mine, because you can. Now, all that is two people doing good things for each other that are mutually good just because they can. And sadly, most people don't live in a world where that is even on the radar.
Most people don't know the neighbours' names, Ed.
The thought of actually doing something good for somebody just because you can, people just, that's because we're all scraping around in the dirt for the few crumbs that are left. And that's when you get people like Owen in Spain who goes through this, I don't know, we'll call it what you want, this way of life because of what he believes. And, and it is hard. It's not easy. And that's why I think when he said, people at RN and all the people in the chat room and all the rest of it, the reason for that is because he feels that all of us understand him. We get it. Mm. And it's knowing that somebody else understands you is what gets you through.
No, and again, if I didn't have the close connections that I had, and they were few, they were on one hand. If I didn't have those connections, I don't know where I'd have been. And like Andy said, he got worried about me at some point. It was, I didn't have time to worry about myself. I was too busy. I didn't see what was happening to me. I didn't see what was happening until it was pointed out. And by the time it was pointed out, I already knew, but I was still trying to make excuses. And I had to grow up. It was time for me to grow up and not keep blaming everybody else and not be a victim. And that's a scary thing to do as well. It's to try and pull yourself back together from all that after losing everything materially, but also understanding that fundamentally 95% of what you'd been taught is either littered with lies, pure lies, or you just don't know because you've not seen new information. And that's the one thing that disappoints me more than anything. I know a lot of intelligent people who will refuse to read those documents.
They're not intelligent then, are they, Webby?
What I'm saying is they've got degrees, they've gone to university, they think they come across that they're intellectual, they talk about politics.
My wife's got a degree and she said, I don't think President Trump should be in White House because he lived in that mansion with all them girls. So she's got a degree.
But this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is society bases them as intelligence, right? I've got 7 GCSEs. That's not based as intelligence. Yet I'm telling people who must feel superior or cleverer than I am because I've not achieved what they've achieved. Yet I'm telling them that most of the world idea is wrong. And people don't like that. People don't like that being pointed out yet. The truth is the truth. You can keep looking at the shadows on the cave if you like. The real stuff's behind you.
Yeah.
I like the way that New Beings just jumped in there and what you said there, Adie. She's condensed it down to basically a phrase: service to others rather than service to self.
Yeah.
And while we're on that subject, I've seen a lot of people in this bowel movement, as Dave von Kleist calls it, and I think it's probably not far from the truth, who they're doing what they can ostensibly to help other people, but then they'll quietly tell you, well, I did this, that, and the other for them. They didn't do fuck all for me. They didn't give me any money. They didn't buy me breakfast. They didn't do this, that, or the other. Well, that's not the way it works.
No.
When you do what you do because it's the right thing to do, I'm a firm believer that it's there we are, belief, right? I know that the universe will at some time pay you back for that. And it won't pay you back in the way that you might think, whether that way you might think is fame, money, or whatever.
You'll miss it. You'll miss it.
Little comments like Owen's there, and the odd phone call, or a guy rushes up to you on the pavement and says, you know, his wife was crippled with MS and now she's not, and wanted to thank me for it. But I said to him, no, you're thanking the wrong man. And I'm talking about service to others. Andrew Fletcher, I've got to mention him. He's almost part of the team. I think he's been on more shows than any other guest since we started RN. I think all four of us here are sleeping inclined, and I haven't actually found out whether you've got any benefits from it or not, Webby. What's the case?
Yeah, I've got benefits from it. I'm not properly inclined because of the bed. I've got to get a decent frame. I've kind of bastardized it by raising the mattress at the top end and in stages, so the mattress is inclined, but because it's a mattress, it's tending to bend as well. So I don't think I'm getting the full benefits, but I've certainly felt a difference in my sleep patterns and everything. But I've got to get myself a solid frame.
Well, Andrew's been working in service to others. You know, he's getting nothing out of this apart from the satisfaction of helping other people. But he's been doing it for 27 years. He posted the other day. Now that's a hell of a lot. I've been doing this 4 years when I packed in, and I don't know, maybe it was the way I did it, but it took too much out of me over that 4 years, and I had to step back. Now, Andrew, he's kept himself going, and he still gets silly comments, I think, but he's got enough people that have tried this and are doing it across the world that he is making a huge difference. I spoke to a lady in Canada, connecting with something that I was looking at, and I spoke to her, and when I got to speak to her privately instead of in a group, I said to her, oh, I noticed you had a really bad headache the other day. Can I suggest this? And she says, I've been sleeping on an inclined bed since 1998. I went, brilliant. Word's getting round then.
Can I just point something out here, guys? Jason asked me about hospital. I just want to show you this sort of, hang on a minute. This is all the shite they sent me home with. Right? Hang on, I'm not finished yet. Just there's some more in the cupboard, by the way, and then, you know, a bottle of Oromorph, which, hang on a minute, where are we? Which I've not even opened. I had my ankle, some crippling down my ankle from an old injury from a motorbike accident, and a thing called an ablation, which is to sort out the arrhythmia of your heart. And they sent me home with all that lot. But the one question they said to me was, you need to tell us about your alcohol consumption. And I went, yeah, not a problem. So I told them, and they went, oh, okay. And then they said, and what other drugs do you take? I said, well, I don't take any. I should, by all the stuff that you've given me, but I don't, not painkillers or anything. And then they said, what about cannabis? And I went, yeah, it's a plant. They went, what? I said, it's not a drug, it's a plant. Well, no, we class it as a drug. I went, no. All this shit that you give me to go home with is drugs. Cannabis is a plant, and they absolutely would not have it. Just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, that's where we're at, isn't it? I mean, it's rough. A drug is everything's upside down. We know that everything's upside down. You know, war is peace, and anti-Semitism is fucking God knows what. I mean, for God's sake, that's the last wank I'm going to have watching Rachel Riley. Shit, she keeps fucking posting. Anti-Semitism fucking bollocks she keeps posting on fucking Twitter.
I've just got visions of you going, go on a consonant, give me a consonant.
Oh, sorry, I thought he was on about Lisa Riley, the fat bird that used to be an Enfield.
Oh, no, I finished wanking over her years ago. When she stopped doing You've Been Framed.
I'll tell you what has come out today. I've seen in at least 3 mainstream articles. There's been how they put it is a massive study of 650,000 children in Denmark who've been vaccinated, and they fell over themselves today to publish this narrative that it's a study, an independent study that shows that vaccines do not cause autism. Another independent study, and the pro-vaxxers, or whatever they call themselves, the pro-vaxxers have been out waving the flags and attacking all the anti-vaxxers. It's been amazing to see these anti-vaccine sites that people have joined because they've got questions about why they shouldn't vaccinate. And as soon as you post anything in there, you're attacked by pro-vaccinators who call you a retard. This isn't a good way to exchange information. So there's definitely a muddying of the waters, and it's trying to get through that to the truth. You know, everybody's got a version of truth. Well, let's put all these versions together and see what we can come up with. You just mentioned cannabis, not a drug, a plant. The Cancer Research UK said there's no beneficial use for cannabis with cancer treatments. That's because they've never done the test, they've never done the studies. So it's great to hear all these stories that this study's been done, that study's been done. We know that pharmaceuticals have been funding these studies. I've looked everywhere to try and find the funding for the Royal College of Physicians, and I can't find who's funding it. It's a charity. But you know, these links with charities, they certainly seem to go to the same places. So a bit more digging, I think.
Here's another good example. I've known her, I think she's probably 25, 26 years old. And I probably met her when she was about...
What's her name? Ping Pong?
No, this is a friend's daughter. She was probably 4 or 5 when I met her. So I've probably known her 20 odd years. And her mum is a doctor, okay? A paediatrician. And this young lady is type 1 diabetic. And her mum said to me many, many years ago, they can already probably cure this. But the people who fund all of the studies into diabetes and how it can be beaten, the people that fund that are the pharmaceutical companies who make the insulin. So,
I mean, even independent studies there, you can't trust.
How on earth is that independent? Because it's just not. And what you tend to find is, you know, if you've got a group or an organisation who are against something or against somebody feeling some way, I don't know, it's probably they're the ones who are actually doing what they're against. And the reason they've got the name that they've got is because it's just all upside down. Everything. So how can you have a company which makes billions a year from drugs for diabetics funding the research into diabetes? It makes no sense.
No, because I had this. I don't know if you know, but my stepson, Danielle's son, who, by the way, passed his driving test today. So congratulations, Connor. He's type 1 diabetic, and he was diagnosed in about 2010, and as Danielle was at work, and it was, I took him to the doctors when he was diagnosed and everything. Took him to the hospital. In fact, that was the last time you were at bank, weren't it? Yeah. Because they were right cunts with you. So he'd been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Now, we went to quite a few appointments when he was being taught how to look after it, and we were also given all this information. Bear in mind, we were only about 10 at that time.
I remember it. Yeah.
And we were sat in this. One day we were sat in this. It was all the parents of people that had just been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes that were having to inject insulin. So we were all in this room, and then the guy was telling us about insulin. I remember his name, Mark Denial, his name were, and he was a diabetic nurse, and he was diabetic himself. And he was telling all the pupils, all the parents, all about stuff, and he asked if there were any questions, and I said, what is the motivation for these companies that are making this insulin? Because he told us that insulin initially came from pigs, but now they've got a synthetic insulin that they make. I said, what's the motivation for curing diabetes if they're making so much money from the from making insulin? And he didn't really have an answer to that, but it was one of those moments. It was one of those elevator statements that Ada keeps talking about, or you talking about. And somebody sat next to me, a parent sat next to me, looked at me and said, "Do you know, I never thought of that. I never thought of that, but it makes sense. Why would you get yourself a cure for something and then just completely dissipate your market, the market that you were selling to, that you've been making billions of pounds for? You're just going to, it's just ridiculous. It's like the BBC making televisions illegal, wiping television. a complete, it just doesn't make any sense that, and at that point, he said to me, and I never thought of that. And again, it's another point where when you think differently, you don't just think in the group, but you think differently. And when somebody says something to you, you don't just take it at face value. What you do is you dissect that, and then you come up with something that's a little bit of a problem and a bit of a dilemma for not only for you, but for the companies that you're talking about. So, again, it's. I mean, that was 2010. I don't know what that bloke's done since. So, he's probably just gone straight back to sleep, and he's injecting his kids are probably injecting themselves by now.
It's accentuated with the 1939 Cancer Act, though, as well, isn't it? Because if I know so many people now who've got benefits from not just using cannabis, but alkaline diets. We've got David Noakes, who's now in jail, saying he could cure people with GC math. We've got all these things that have been beneficial, yet the law just goes after the people who claimed something against the law. And that was using the word cure against the 39 Cancer Act, which chemo and radiation, that's all you can use. That is their way of saying, no, you're not going to get part of our market. And then you hit the nail on the head. All these new pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, I've seen today there's a fella who's been given stem cell treatment, and he's AIDS free. That's the second one with this treatment.
Yeah, I saw that.
The things that are there, you're right. They don't want to destroy the market. They want to build a market. Well, that is in treating symptoms. That's in between illness and death. They want you in there as much as possible. It's the same way as a solicitor wants to see loads of equity, and then you two argue. If a man and woman is going through a bad divorce and there's lots of equity, more controversy, the better for the solicitors. Yeah, they love it. And that's exactly the same. And they talk about profit, and it's all money, 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 money. And they're not. They're watching people die whilst people give away their hard-earned toil notes, their equity. They give it away to a system that teaches them to give it away to them, and then they protest about it and apply for a license to do that. Legal acceptance. It's madness.
Adie, before you come in, listen, it's 8 o'clock. I want to play a record. Have a bit of a break. Are you all right with that, or it's something that were pertinent to what we were talking about now?
Yeah, I just want to read the text that I sent to a friend at 17:52 this afternoon, because he was going through exactly what Webby's just said, and he said, "Oh, I'm probably going to get a solicitor's letter." And I just sent this text. Thought for the day: a solicitor is only a third-party interloper who has a case that you are unable to look in because it's not yours. He or she is a member of the Law Society and you are not. So you speak two different languages which sound similar. They can decide or instruct nothing. Only a judge who has jurisdiction can. A letter from them is little more than a playground. Nah, 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 nah. And he sent a message back, and he just put, "Wow,
fuck off."
Never thought of it like that.
No, go on.
Wow, I never thought of it like that. I'll call you tomorrow. So hopefully, my mate now, he's sat at home with the cogs churning round.
Yeah,
thinking about that.
Yep, well, and that's what we need. That is exactly what we need. Look, it's gone 8 o'clock. We might go on even further than 9 tonight. I don't know. It's Raconteurs News 250 with me, Jason Holmes. Oh, sorry, Bruce Willis. I'm going to get me out of it in a minute. Me, Bruce Willis. We've got Paul Webster, my co-presenter Paul Webster, and of course former presenters Andy and Aid. We are just talking. We're just chewing a bit of fat tonight. Just talking stuff. We're going to probably talk some old guests in the second hour as well, because I know we mentioned Andrew K. Fletcher, and he's been a huge part of Raconteurs News. But there have been other guests, including one of the now presenters, who's been a long-time guest and was at one time my favourite guest on Raconteurs News, if I remember rightly, back in the day. But anyway, listen, I'm going to play a record, and then we'll be back in 3 minutes and 51 seconds with the second half. Don't go anywhere, please. Cheers, Dave. Not enough Robin Hood. Too many halos, not enough heroes coming up with the goods. So you thought you'd like to change the world, decided to stage a jumble sale for the poor, for the poor. So you thought you'd like to change the world, decided to stage a jumble sale for the poor, for the poor. It's a waste of time if you know you try shaking your box in front of the queen. Cause the first is fine and first in the seat. It's a waste of time if you know what they mean. Not enough hands on heart. Too many ready to call it a day before the day starts. So you like to see them heal. Got blue beat at the stage and appeal for the poor, for the poor.
box in front of the queen. Cause her purse is fat and bursting at the seams. It's a waste of time, you know what they mean. It's a waste of time if you know what they mean. Try shaking your box in front of the queen. Cause her purse is fat and bursting at the seams. It's a waste of time if you know what they mean.
That, of course, is Heath Dweft, my old mate, and he's singing Flag Day. It's an old House Martins song that he's covered. Now, as you can probably see, I have added to my cranium accessories with this rather stylish hat that has been that was gifted to me by my cousin, who is a designer. Now, I'm just wondering, I did promise him I'd wear it on the show. In fact, he was texting me just then, just saying, "Where you put the hat on, man?" So there we go. I've got the hat now. I just need some advice. Do I have it where I've got my head in the hat, or do I wear it with my head out of the hat, like that? You know, so I look a bit like East 17. Eh? What do you think?
I think you wouldn't have even fucking got away with that 20 years ago, you old bastard.
I know. I told you I'm too old, aren't I? I'm too old, far too old. Yeah.
You need, plus, the peak needs bending anyway. You can't have a peak like that, mate. Like a bell end.
Oh dear me, we've got into peaks now.
You need to bend the peak.
A bendy peak. Ain't that a Netflix thing in it?
I'll tell you, the Armchair Detectives just had an advertisement come up. He's got a great hat on though, with the peak bent and everything. He looks cool. You look a knob.
Oh, well, never mind. We're not into appearances here at Raconteurs News, which is probably a good thing, because none of us are really old paintings, are we, apart from my wife and Watson. Oh, there we go. Adie's got his stuff.
Look, you got to do the peak thing. You know
what if I'm not supposed to do the peak thing? I bend the peak, and then my cousin, who designed this hat, then said to me, you know, I'm sorry, but that was a straight peaked hat. Then, you know what I mean? I can't. What do I do?
See, some people will wear it straight like that, and some people put it on the side. Try it.
Oh,
it's
sideways.
Just, yeah, like that. Well, backwards even.
You see, it depends why you wear the hat. It depends why you wear the hat.
I'm wearing it because my cousin asked me to.
You see, I only wear this when I go watch ice hockey, because it cuts out all the light from the stupid bright lights above, so I can concentrate on the game, and that's all I can see, because that's all I need to see. Whereas if I sit like that, wearing glasses, all the lights are shining on you, and it just gives you a headache. So that's why you wear that. If you're wearing that to look cool, this is no reflection on the designer. I think the designer was excellent. I think the model's fucking shit.
Well, I think that's prejudice, and you've only said that.
Yeah, that's not fair. That just because you're gloating because you've got more legs than he has. That's not.
Yeah. Oh dear me. Anyway, second.
You'll be telling me you've got nosebleeds.
Nurse. But have you noticed? Have you seen that he's asking for money?
Yeah, who's that?
I saw that.
No, I haven't. No.
Go on, Andy. Yeah, you said you saw it.
Yeah, I clicked on somebody's page on Facebook to have a look what sort of stuff they was posting, and the first thing on there was a crowdfunder for Lee Garrett's legal fees. I read it and I just giggled to myself, and I thought, yeah, well, he's probably just trying to raise money to buy a new leg like Jason.
You never know, dear. I mean, come on, these legal fees. What? Listen, if he put a GoFundMe page together for so that he could fly to Dignitas, then I might chuck a $5 in, but that's all, just a $5. So
I don't miss something, because I don't know what we're talking about here, girls.
We're talking about Lee Garrett. Lee Garrett, we're on the show.
And assisted suicide as well, apparently.
Yeah. Lee Garrett were on the show. In fact, he were calling me a cunt on the phone. I had he came on the show, and then he made some accusation against another person.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me about, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little prick. Apparently, it's not even his real name, is it, Lee Garrett? He's called something else as well, isn't he?
I've no idea.
He has. He's got another name. Have a look for it. But he advertised it, or he posted it under that name as well. Do you know it, Andy?
I don't, mate. I don't take any interest. It was like, okay, I heard the first time he phoned you up and threatening you because I was talking to you on Skype when the phone call took place. That one you didn't record. I also heard the one that you did record, and I thought, I don't want to know anything about these two guys because they're just a pair of dicks and bullies.
Yeah. That's by the way, we don't want to name anybody, but it's Mark Steele and Lee Garrett, who are Mark Steele's obviously a shill of some sort. I don't know what his game is, but he's a wrong un, shall we say? In my opinion, I mean, if you like him, it's okay. We do everything on this show. We even had far left Paul Webster last night agreeing with somebody who'd made a video about Hitler and decrying the virtue of Hitler. We do everything on this show. We're not bound by sides, are we? Left or right, or or trans or fucking whatever.
Sega Saturn in the chat room has just hit the nail on the head, Jason. Forget Bruce Willis. Well, I think we're talking Onslow. Status.
Fucking Onslow.
Well, I did type in the chat room last week when Jason said it about Bruce Willis in the vest. I said, don't you mean more like Stan Ogden?
You what? You know what?
I think we got one!
It's an absolute outrage. Onslow, I don't even know who that is.
Oh, you do, Mrs. Bucket. Mrs. Bucket's brother-in-law.
Yeah, I know. I fucking know. Of course I know, but I don't look like him. And you sound more like him than I do.
Can I just bring this back, guys?
Go on.
Well, the other night, we some of us, Andy, I don't think Andy was around. Oh, I can't remember. I can think I was pissed.
I was there before you showed up, Adie.
Yeah.
So I took you leave a bit earlier.
When you showed up, we fucked up.
We were having a sort of a conversation on, I think it was Skype. And I was asked if there was any group of people, and that could have been race, religion, colour, creed, whatever. It was a very, very open question. If there was any group of people that I hated. And the only thing I could come up with was if you're a cunt. Because if you're murdering people, robbing off people, stopping somebody else having an opinion, or stopping somebody else having the right to say what they believe, their own truth, or maiming or sending other people off to war, whatever it is, something bad towards somebody else, then you're a cunt. And it doesn't matter whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, fucking Australian. I mean, what could be worse than Australian? New Zealand, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you're a decent guy or a decent girl, you're a decent person. We all have our ups and downs and we all make mistakes. But it doesn't really matter what creed, colour, religion, or anything you are. If you're a bastard, you're a bastard.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And, when people are dividing people over these religions and that, it's about what people's actions are. You've got to start judging people on their actions, not on what you've been told about them or anything like that.
Exactly.
And it's called critical thinking, and, and thankfully there's a few more people doing it, but we need some more. We could always do some more.
I mean, I just genuinely believe that my rights stop where yours begin. So whoever and whatever you are, my rights stop when yours start. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah. It's not hard. It's not hard. It's just politics is meant to make it hard. and people are given this myth of choice. And
Yeah,
exactly. You're voting for the same thing. You know, everything they disagree on is what we argue about. But what are they agreeing on? I mean, how many people have read the Lisbon Treaty, what that entails, and then try and look at why Brexit is now being dragged out?
Oh.
Lisbon Treaty goes live in 2020.
I mean, I'm just going to show you this picture. You ready? Yeah, you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, so when people say to me, "Oh, what does that mean?" Well, it just means I don't believe that I need a ruler, and you know, it's just ridiculous thought. But the main thing is with politics. I asked my brother, who is supposed to be reasonably intelligent, I said, "When was the last time a Conservative government did away with a law that was brought in by Labour? Or when was the last time a Labour government got rid of a law that was brought in by any other party?"
Only when they want to further the agenda. Mm.
So if that just don't prove that they all do the same thing on the same road, but dress it up in different clothes, nothing does.
Well, that kind of takes us back a little bit to the Mark Steele thing that was being talked about. Now, we tried to give that guy support because he seemed to be a genuine guy who was trying to get the truth out there. But I had my doubts as soon as I saw that his solution to this problem was to start a fucking political party.
Why?
Because anyone who doesn't realize that voting does not work, well, it works, but not for us.
No.
If voting worked, then we'd all be living in paradise because we've been doing it for best part of 1,000 years. And look where we are. We're in worse shit than when we started.
It's the options you're given, isn't it? The options you're given to vote, and people believe that there is a choice. Look at all the parties, but there's only either going to be 2, possibly 3. And UKIP are now being the ones pushed, with Tommy Robinson being the dual now being promoted into this crown. And with all the background and all the allegations, stories, utterances, whatever you want to call it, round that man, and around the situations that he's been in, and all the other factors, including funding and all that, how people can just say he's the man. That is exactly what has happened through. He's the man. Oh, look at Corbyn. He's been hit with an egg. That's it. Now he's fucked.
But don't that tell you that that's what people are looking for?
Yes. They want somebody to save them. Yeah.
Exactly, that's what people are looking for, and you can't really blame them because they've been conditioned to have somebody else do everything for them for their entire life. So when it comes to we need saving from the Tories, they're going to look at Jeremy Corbyn, and then Jeremy Corbyn gets all this anti-Semitic stuff thrown at him. You know, it's just it's like a play that's playing out in front of us. You know, if Corbyn had anything about him, if he had any conviction, if any part of the whole thing, he would have blown up. It would be over by now. But it's not.
That's what the point is. You hit the nail on the head. It's a show. Look at Parliament. It's a fucking game to these people. It's a show. You can't call people out in Parliament. You can't say you're lying, you're telling lies.
No, because they've got parliamentary...
Exactly. Parliamentary privilege. And that means that they can tell lies legally. And you've got to go, oh, naughty boy, I don't think you really meant that.
Just like the police, they can tell lies, they can tell you whatever they want.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
It's based on interrogation techniques. That's why the police are based on interrogation techniques. They want to extract information, and that's what they're trained to do. They're not trained to understand laws, and they're certainly not trained to help people. That is not to say there aren't police officers that want to help people, but all the good people that were police officers that I know are not in the job anymore.
No, they're not.
Because they saw what was coming. We've had Michael Feely, him and his wife, both left the service because they were arguing against the stuff that were coming in. 10 minutes into the job, if they made one arrest or one inquiry. They were off the road. They were off for the entire duty. This isn't good enough. This is not policing. This is revenue collection. And all the system's got to change.
Just getting back to politics, because I then want to come on to the police thing again. If anybody does actually believe politics, I just wanted to think about two things that I've said many times before. Leader of the free world. Now, either I'm free or I'm being led. I can't be both. And another phrase they often use, consent of the governed. Now, either you're telling me what to think or I'm consenting to something. I can't be both. So if you think that politics is real, just think about those two statements. Because it's just not. It's just theatre. That's all it is, to keep you distracted from the stuff that hopefully
it's a mind construct, like the monetary system. It's a mind construct. We believe it, and it's so there it is true. Then and you get people talking about Keynesian economics and stuff like that. These are their models. This is their model. Why do you want to participate in a game that you don't know that you're losing? Why do you not want to learn the rules and then go, there's something, there's a key element here. It is through consent, but the consent has been bastardized. People have got to realize they can't just throw their arms up and have a paddy. They've got to realize what has been done, discover, research, learn what's been done before you do anything, because that is what's fucked a lot of things up, where people have said, I watched your video and I did this, I followed you exactly, and I've not got. No, you've not followed anything. I did a video saying this is what I did, this is where I'm up to, nothing else. So these people are looking for quick fixes. There is no quick fix to a system that's been dragged out for hundreds of years to steal everything. They're not going to give it you.
There are no certificates, there are no medals, and nobody's going to knock on your door and tell you that you won. They just start to leave you the fuck alone. That's it.
Yeah.
And just going back to the police, my family members, my brother and his wife, both joined the police, and they genuinely wanted to help people. My brother counted the shifts that he'd still got to do with 10 years to go before retirement.
Yeah.
He genuinely did.
Just to get through.
Yeah, just to get through, because by the time they half realise what's going on, and I will say half realise, because the type of police officer that's being attracted to the job these days is not what it was. They're too far up to the neck in 2.4 kids, car loan, house loan, mortgage, bank loans, holidays, and a wife that needs keeping happy. And that's the truth.
Yeah, you're spot on, mate.
And that's where you come in, isn't it, Ada? A wife that needs keeping happy. That's when Ada offers his services, of course. Let's see what's going on in the chat room. Hello to everyone in the only vote in smoky time. Lol, that's committed escaper. Super Leeds, I hope we did you a little bit of a favour last night. We took 2 points off the pigs, so they didn't go above you. So you owe me for that one. I know you want to have a pint, and if you're down in Sheffield, you come down to Sheffield, I'll gladly come and have a pint with you. No problem whatsoever. And I'll give you those 2 points. I'll hand them over personally, the 2 points that we took off the pigs last night. Alan McVicker's in there. New Being, good evening, New Being. Peanut Man, there's loads of people in the chat room. Andrew K. Fletcher. I just wanted to bring Andy in, because we've been a bit Andy-like, I think, throughout to the show. We've been a bit Andy-like. Andy, come on, you've got to be able to set out. Give us some sort of insight. Who was your let's just, I know we've probably done this before, but like some guests, some memorable guests from previous shows.
Well, I was just thinking, and we could maybe go round all of us, and maybe not favourite guests, but maybe some high and low moments, some moments that made you feel on top of the world, and maybe others where you just wanted the ground to swallow you up. I mean, ground to swallow you up. I suppose it would have to be the show with Max Egan that didn't go so well. That was a bit of a low moment for me. High moments, I think it was probably when we were still doing the audio only, and we had Tony Moran, WBC cruiserweight world champion, on, describing his belt to well, he was showing them it on Skype, but they couldn't see it. So Jason was saying how wonderful it looked. I thought that was class. And thanks, Andrew, for getting Tony on there. You guys, you really need to get Andrew on again. He's part of the RN furniture, for God's sake, if he's willing to do that, obviously, and got time to do it. But yeah, those were two moments that sprung to mind. I mean, there's been loads of moments. I've had a lot of high moments off air, you know, people running up and saying, "Oh, you've changed my life." Phone calls. The lady who's I believe Kerry was her name, whose daughter had been having 80 to 100 fits a day for 17 years, sent her a bottle of CBD oil, and she said, "The fits have stopped. Thank you for giving me my daughter back." There just is no words to say what that makes you feel.
No, you can't write that, can you?
Go on then. Your turn next, Webby.
Well, I'm going to go with the low moment, what you just said, Max Egan, because that was probably one of my car crashes. Again, tough time. I've no excuses. I apologise to Max, not only after the show, but I apologised the next day. And, you know, all's well, he says, we all live and learn, brother, all that kind of thing. Because, you know, we all disagree at times, and there's a lot of passion involved because there's a lot of emotion involved. I mean, I almost fell out with one of my best mates that I do a lot of work with because he told me that there's no way you're going to get your house back. That isn't something I wanted to hear. And mixing that with all that emotion with drink and everything, it's a bad slope. And you know, when you've got all that in your mind, and then you're having a conversation with somebody who might bring up a point that you know you can draw on and join a dot, but you know, all the emotion comes out. It comes out wrong. I've heard a few car crashes, and I can't listen to myself. It's horrible. And I had a guy who waited 20 minutes to speak to me at Nottingham, and you know the Nottingham event that I'm talking about. The guy waited 20 minutes to introduce himself. He drove 4 hours. He thanked me for saving his life because of the information that he took from it, and he'd listened to me all the way down. And I can not remember that man's name because of the state I was in. And now I look forward, because people who I've spoken to, I've not met so many of these people, but at some point I may get to meet them and I'll actually remember a conversation with them, because it's been, the last 10 years have been a bit of a whirlwind. If we look at the highlights of the shows, I've had quite a few in the past year. I don't know. I couldn't put my finger on one just off the top of my head. I'll have to have a think about it. What about you, Jason?
Well, I think Adie should go before me.
All we need is.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Adie, can I just give you a suggestion, please?
Well, I know one. Go on.
I know his favourite one's going to be.
I'll give you a suggestion of a low point: 3 hours of Rob Alford.
Okay, I'll live with that.
Yeah, I knew that one was going to be the low point for Adie, because I distinctly remember him texting me 20 minutes in and say, "Fuck me, on board."
Yeah, I was.
No disrespect, Rob, if you're listening.
The thing is, though, Rob comes out, you know, there's some good stuff that comes out, but if I'm being asked to pinpoint one bit, yes. High point for me would probably be For those of you who remember the Daisy interview or interviews, Daisy was an NHS whistleblower, and because of her being that, which is still ongoing, by the way, I think it's only been 6 or 7 years now, because of that, was incarcerated within the mental health system, and together with some other very helpful people, we managed to, after only 4 weeks of her being sectioned, get her released from at least being incarcerated in what they called a hospital ward. But, you know, triple locked doors and an 18-foot fence with barbed wire sounds like a fucking prison to me, not a hospital ward. And being able,
it sounds like Trump porn.
yeah, and being able to learn enough, quickly enough, with lots of other people's help, to be able to help somebody else at least get out of a physical place that was clearly doing them no good whatsoever, was a high point. And I know a lot of people listen to that and blah, blah, but you know, this is somebody who's been a friend for quite a long time and who would have done exactly the same thing for me, as would any of you guys that are sat here now. But the low point for me, other than the Rob Halford for 3 hours, was probably with the same subject, and that would be when the same system that was used to incarcerate her, that caused Daisy to have post-traumatic stress disorder, was then the same system that she had to use to at least try and help her get better from what they'd caused. So her abuser is who she had to turn to for help. Now, how on earth is that? You've got to really think about that and work out what must happen to somebody who's in that position. Thankfully, she's getting through, but it's still ongoing.
Good stuff, mate.
Jason.
I actually thought Pippa King was coming up there.
There's nowhere to run now, Jason.
No, Pippa was, do you know, I have to say, of all the guests that I have had on, Pippa was great, simply because for 20 minutes, she's sort of spellbound, listening to a very rational, simple way of putting information over. And after 20 minutes, she just says something like, oh, I feel silly because I've not shut up for 20 minutes. When actually, if she could listen to herself as she was saying it and look at it from how other people would look at what she's saying, she's probably one of the better guests to have. She really is good. Just the way she puts stuff over.
Yeah, well, we had her on last week.
Okay.
Yeah, and excellent as usual. Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant.
Mesmerising.
So, Jason low point?
Well, there's the obvious one.
Yeah.
The obvious one, the obvious low point was the tequila thing, but that's the low point for me. And it's funny because we've mentioned Andrew K. Fletcher tonight, and it was a show that he was on. Now I wasn't on that show, but I came on. It was when I was ill earlier on this year, and it was when I'd just discovered that I got to have my leg amputated.
That was last year, mate.
Last year. And I just listened back to it not long ago. Listen back to it, and I thought to myself, actually, I thought that I remembered it as that I was more emotional than I was when I was mentioning it. And bear in mind, we had probably half the audience that we've got now at that time, and I can remember people posting in chat and how shocked they were and stuff like that. And I only stayed on for 15 minutes. I just wanted to let people know that, you know, what were happening, because I'd been ill and I'd not been on for quite a while. that were a bit of a low point, a bit of a emotional one. That something that but it's something that I feel like I've been through, and the people that have listened to Raconteurs News all this time, and even people perhaps that have looked back at our gone back over our previous shows, perhaps weren't listening live, have gone through that as well and with me, so I felt a lot of support. So that's almost like a bittersweet moment. I knew I'd made the I'd said to everyone, because I did want to be honest with people and say, look, this is what's happening. And it was sort of a bittersweet moment, because the amount of support that I got from people. I remember somebody putting in the chat room that they were in bits, and somebody that doesn't even know me, don't know me, and just sees me on one of these things, and that, I suppose, it is sort of a low and a high, if you know what I mean. But the high points, I'm fating with what's his face. I like it when I like the Neil Sanders one, when we had a bit of a disagreement, and I like it when I get a disagreement. When I can have an argument with somebody. That's what I like. I like to be able to get my teeth into somebody and just say, this is why I wanted Dan Bostock on.
Is that what that was? Because you had a bit of a Rob Alford moment, remember, over Israel as well. That was where you had a good argument over that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, me and Rob Alford. Yeah. Because I still can't work Rob Alford out. I mean, I like him. He's welcome to come back on when Adie's back. But he's welcome to come back on. But I like Rob Alford. I think he's a decent bloke, but I just don't quite get him. I just don't know. I don't know whether he wants.
He's a bit cryptic at times, isn't he?
A historian or this or that or other, and also the Diane Jessie Miller. The first time that we interviewed, in fact, both times we interviewed Diane Jessie Miller. I'm a huge Rick Mayall fan. I always have been, and I don't make any apologies for being a Rick Mayall fan, but speaking to her and when she was telling us about. How she'd been round to Rick's house. Rick had invited her around to his house, and they'd been sat talking about this video, this film that they made, One by One, by the way. If anybody's not seen it, you need to see it. It's One by One, it's called. And it's Rick Mayall's final film. It's directed by Diane Jessie Miller. And we had Diane Jessie Miller on a couple of times, and I really enjoyed speaking with her as well. So that's probably me high and low points in... we're probably a little bit more long-winded than necessary, but
I mean, if I have to pick one just off the top of my head, because I've had a lot of great conversations on here. I mean, even back when I came on as a guest, I've had great conversations on here with you and Andy and Aid. I enjoyed the conversation when we had Alex Thompson on from the UK column, because he's not only public schoolboy trained, but it showed when he said that one thing to me when I said, Alex, you went to Eton. He said, yeah. I said, you're taught the Bills of Exchange Act by the age of 11 there. And he said, yes, of course we are, Paul. Well, how else are we going to steal all your equity? And he said it in such a beautiful articulation. You just go, you almost want to thank him for knowing that they know how to steal your equity because of how eloquently he put it. But it ticked boxes. That conversation how can I put it? It put the beading around some of the work that I'd put into this, because somebody who goes to Eton and tells you that this Bills of Exchange Act is taught there to the age of 11 tells you how pertinent that it is. They are groomed specifically for top positions in these banking systems. The politicians don't work for us. We've got to grow up And that was a big thing for me. So I've had a lot of great conversations, but that one does stick out of my mind because of the amount of work and talk that I've done about this, because people have got to look at it for themselves. I'm not going to be able to convince anybody, and I've give up trying. There's the information. Do with it what you want. Don't do it. That was a good point for me.
Can I just bring one up? And I don't know if I should do this in private with Jason or publicly on here, but bugger it, I'm just going to do it. You know, when you've got a mate who's going through something serious, such as having your leg off, and you say to him, mate, I know you've got people around you, but if you need anything, give me a ring. And he rings you up at probably the lowest point in his life and says, I can't get out the house. Please, will you go and buy me a bottle of gin? And I find myself thinking, I can't, because he's my mate, and I can't sit and watch him destroy himself because and then you ring your other mate, Andy, and say, Andy, am I being a twat? Or should I do it? And, you know, you have this conversation and you, what do you do? What do you do? So low point for me was not going to buy my mate a bottle of gin for every right reason that I could ever think of.
And Adie, if I remember that conversation well, what I said to you is, Jason won't thank you now, but I think one day he will thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's not fucking today. Go and get some fucking gin. Cheap cunt.
I think.
See, Eddie, if you'd have been a better mate, you'd have gone and got the bottle of gin and you just sat there and sucked 3/4 of it and leave him with 1/4.
No, I think I actually said, I think Daniel will end up removing my testicles if I do that.
And do you know something, Adie? Can I tell you something?
What?
My mother-in-law ended up getting it for me. So you thought you were saving me, but you weren't.
No, I know.
Although I would have had 2 bottles of gins because I'm going to ask her anyway.
Awesome, guys. I think we covered that one fairly well. I just noticed something that Andrew slipped in the chat room there, and it might be of use to you guys because I'm no longer, you know, I'm just somebody who shows up now and again. But Andrew says that research the Brave Awards. He says you get paid in BAT, basic attention tokens. You can link your YouTube accounts to receive tips from others using the Brave browser. He showed me that. He shared that Brave browser on Facebook a while back. I've looked at it. I haven't really looked into it properly, but it's a browser that kind of covers your tracks and doesn't track you like all the others do. So certainly worth having a look at. And I'm going to try and get sorted and get onto that Brave browser soon. It might just be a bit of support for what you guys are doing, because I know that we've never kind of held our hands out, and you know, some shows you listen to and it's every 5 minutes, oh, donate to the YouTube channel and all that sort of.
You won't give us a nosebleed.
It's a nosebleed.
Nosebleed. A nosebleed, man. For fuck's sake, I've got nosebleeds coming out of my ass.
I think one of the best ones when we had what's his name on doing 9/11. Come on, help me, guys.
Dave Von Kleist.
Yeah, and Dave hadn't actually been on any interview for what, 10 years?
Yeah, something like that.
And he came onto our end, and I mean, what I loved about the guy was he only ever asked questions. He never came up with any answers, and that's why all right, let's use the word establishment, whatever. That's why they couldn't cope with him. And
they couldn't debunk him. They couldn't debunk
the one thing that I'll always remember is getting a message that since he'd been on our end, he'd kind of felt that he'd got something to say. So he'd he said he was going to go on an American internet radio show, and I made a point of listening to it. And it ended up being 8 minutes of Dave and who he was being interviewed by, and 52 minutes worth of adverts.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I do love about the whole Raconteurs thing is that nothing's driven by any need for money. It
Doesn't
just
exist.
is. You know, a few
exactly
guys
what
sat
you mean.
this is the shit that we've gone through. This is what we found out. If it helps anybody else, and if we can bring other people in to have a chat with us, and you know, it's a bit like I've always said that I always wanted it to feel like it was, you know, some guys sat around having a drink in a pub, but other people are invited to have a listen.
That's how it should. That's how it.
You know, and that's all you expect.
If I could just jump in there on Dave von Kleist, there was something I think he said that was very important, and we all need to take notice of. And it's something I get quoted back at me on quite a regular basis. Dave said, it's by a very good friend who I talk to on Skype on a regular basis. And he always said, Dave, well, he quotes two people as they had it right. And one of them, strangely enough, is John Irwin, when he said, the enemy is all around you. They're called people, and it's the people that stop the people getting to the top. But the one that he comes from Dave von Kleist was, we've all got a piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
We could just get together and stop arguing about silly shit and falling out.
Stop the ego.
Yeah. Lose the egos and get on with it.
Well, I'm better than you lot, so fuck off.
Listen, that can't be right. Hang on. 1, 2 more legs. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
We've got that Webby, for God's sake.
There's 6 legs. Oh, you're going low. You're talking about
3 legs, have you then?
We've got 3 lads with 2 sets of legs each.
Oh, fucking hell. Well, do you know? I don't know what I don't know what to do with you 3. I really don't know what to do.
Well, you need to put a bend in that feet.
You what?
Can I just point out? I need to point something out. I feel only 50% as good as your regular guests.
Why?
Because there's me and Andy, 2 of us having to make up for 1 missing guest.
Mate, what do you think I have to do? Do you not hear him? He doesn't read anything. He doesn't look at mainstream media. He doesn't watch TV. What should we talk about, Webby?
We'll talk about military exchange. Fucking hell.
Exactly. And then you said, and then you said, don't talk about that.
Oh, we're having this first row, everybody. You're all witnessing it. It's our first ever row that we've ever had.
I'll tell you what, let me just throw a bit of petrol on that fire, because Webby, when he gives you this shit about his exes and all that, and you cheated on him with his ex, I had it right from the fucking start. Don't worry, mate. He's just a jealous bitch. Get over it.
Listen, I'm used to his diva strops and everything. But if he thinks he can just mute his mic and then wheel off stage fucking left, it's not on.
Wheel off, for fuck's sake! How much more prejudicial can you get?
Well, it's like
I have a leg here. Look, there you go. Thank you very much. Listen, I wanted to. Where's Andy fucking gone anyway? You talk about me fucking off, wheeling off stage left, and Andy's gone. I wanted to ask him a question. I've got a question for Andy, and I definitely want to get this in. And like, he's buggered off. Jesus Christ. Anyway, you're listening to Raconteurs News. Here he comes back. He's back. He's got his Raconteurs News hoodie on. Andy, listen, did you, and this could be a really, really short segment, because if you haven't, then we're fucked, really. But have you seen Rich Hall's new film?
Yes, I have. Oh, yes.
Oh, will you send me a link for it, Andy, if you've got one?
Just go richplanet.net.
And it's available.
Yeah, it's on there. It's I think Richard released it a little bit sooner than expected, because
there's been a bit of a backlash, isn't there?
He'd sent a copy of the film on DVD to each and every one of the MPs that's currently sitting, as far as I'm aware. And somebody put some stupid tweet about it being racist. Now, I've had words with Richard. I've had a bit of a run-in with him through email. I met him. We sorted that out. He was having a bad day when we communicated. He apologized, and we collaborated on certain information which he's used.
Sorry, Andy, can I just I just wanted to he released it early because an MP produced a copy on Question Time.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was it. And saying it were racist, wasn't he?
So I don't know what they were saying, but they were saying there was something. But they had a copy of the DVD, and they showed it in Question Time, and that was the reason why he released it.
Yeah. Well, I watched the film, and I watched it all the way through. It's in 4 parts, about 40, 50 minutes long each part. I thought the production values. Richard seems to be constantly trying to up his production values and make better quality films. I was very impressed with that. Only one downside, he's gone a bit mainstream with his music being on such a higher level than his dialogue. And if you happen to be listening to it late at night, you've got to get up and turn it down because you might wake the neighbours' kids up with the music when it comes on in between the talking bits. But apart from that, I thought it was an excellent film, and he'd done some bloody good investigation. He got there. I mean, the guy lives in South Wales now.
Is it brand new, Andy? Sorry for interrupting. Is it brand new or not a rehash of the other Joe Cox?
No, it's brand new. He'd been up. He'd tried to talk to some of the witnesses. Most of the ones who were closely involved weren't very keen to talk to him, but he'd done the boots on the ground thing. He'd got some important information, and basically he showed you what a farce it was. He had Nick Colostrum on there because Nick actually attended the court case of Tommy Mayer all the way through. And he said, well, he sat there silent all the way through it, apart from, I think, to confirm his name. And essentially, he said, I don't think it was Tommy Mayer that was there. And interestingly enough, Richard does name the guy who he believes acted as if he were Tommy Mayer. And if Joe Cox was killed, then that was the man who did it. He names that man, and I think he's got some balls for doing that.
See, I've looked, I saw the other investigation, what Rich did on the Joe Cox stuff. And again, it was very Dave Von Kleist, where he was asking questions. And as you just said, people don't want to talk to him. The truth will stand on its own. People will tell you the truth if it is the truth. There's something not right about all these things. And
the thing that struck me was the fact that they seem to have got mixed up with the black baseball cap and the white T-shirt or the grey T-shirt and the black T-shirt and the white baseball cap. And I know that it was really weird, weren't it? It's really weird that they've got this bloke and they've got him on separate occasions. This is the guy that did it. This is the guy. We've got him on CCTV, and as you can see, he's got a white baseball cap on and a black T-shirt, and then or whatever, vice versa. And then the guy that they're showing, who is Thomas Mayer, has got the opposite. He's got a black baseball cap on and a sort of grey-white T-shirt on. And then they come out with this...
Like Bruce Willis.
The what, sorry?
A bit like Bruce Willis.
Yeah, a bit like Bruce. Well, a bit like me, yeah. Well, I've got no hair, by the way. I am totally Willis. But yeah, it were that were just so ridiculous. And then they come up with this two-hat theory that he got a white hat on top of a black hat, and he took the hat off but none of it made any sense. But due to the fact that he didn't make any, they didn't even provide a defence, did they? Tommy Mayer didn't even present a defence. His team, so it was just everything was just uncontested. He just pled not guilty. The prosecution did their case. He didn't present anything, and so therefore, I mean, what other what other
If
it's got two different hats on.
Yeah, but if the prosecution only bring their case and there is no other case, and the case actually shows that a judge can stand on it, and then he will under these cases. But there's questions about it, and that's the beauty of looking into this stuff. Don't come up with your own. You know, if you want to speculate and you want to talk about it amongst people, that's fine. But don't put all your eggs in one basket saying this is what happened. That's what damages that people get into the truth, because people get so adamant that it's this. You know, it's like Dave was talking about 9/11, where no planes hitting buildings and then radio controlled planes, and they were all coming up with theories where Dave just went, well, what about this anomaly? What about that? What about that? This is unusual. That doesn't normally happen. You can't debate that unless you've got a solution as to why it wasn't there. Go on, Ed.
The only thing you can be sure of, and this is certainly with 9/11, and that's that the bollocks that we're all told from the mainstream is not the truth.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything else is up for debate. But I just want to say something about the Rich Planet stuff. And this is my own personal view. The Rich Planet stuff would be better if somebody else presented it. And what I mean by that is, Rich is a guy who's from the Northeast, who I don't know if it's because of where he's lived and how much travelling he's done, or whether it's just because I did actually work in mainstream media years and years and years ago, just as doing voiceovers. That's all, nothing else. He sounds like a guy from a council estate in the Northeast who's trying to talk posh. To me, that's what it sounds like. Whereas if he just spoke in what I would believe would be his normal accent, it'd be much more credible to me. I personally can't listen to it just because of how it comes over to me, and I wish he'd get somebody else to present it. Not because I don't like him, it's just because of how he appears to me. And I'm sure that all the information that he puts out is well documented, you know, it's well investigated, and, you know, he's credible. It's just that I personally cannot watch it for that reason.
Sorry, I was just about to say, I mean, there's probably people that think, well, I can't watch, I like Raconteurs News, but I can't watch it because of him, Jason. I can imagine tons of people being like that. You know, but at the end of the day, it's his work. He presents it the way that he feels like he wants to present it. If you can't watch it, then you can't watch it, can you? I mean, it's simple as that.
Yeah.
Go on, Andy, go on. You were going to say something.
It's gone at the minute, but yeah, I get where you're coming from, Aid. Personally, I don't have a difficulty with many accents in this group of islands we live on. There's some pretty weird accents out there, and I don't know, it's because I travelled around a lot when I was a young lad. I travelled the world a little bit when I was in my late teens, but for me, when I hear Richard, there is nothing comes across with that accent. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. A Geordie accent is quite difficult for some people. I suppose my accent might be quite difficult for some people. Because I mean, I get told occasionally by people about, oh, they love my voice, it's perfect. Have you thought about doing voice? So the Canadian lady I was telling about the inclined bed the other day, she says, oh, Andy, have you ever done any radio? Yeah, I just packed in after 4 years. But,
see, for me, it's not that I've got a problem with the Geordie accent at all. I've got mates that are Geordie. I think.
Hey, I'm not mates. Hey.
No, it's not that at all. No, I stand by what I said earlier. If you're a cunt, you're a cunt, and if you're not, you're not. And Richard Hall certainly isn't one of those. But I think it's because he's travelled round, he's picked up. It's almost his accent sounds as if he's reading a script and trying to make a posh accent for a Geordie lad. Just be what you are. And it's just how it comes to me, nothing else.
I don't know if Richard went to a grammar school, but I think he's gone through the university system. So you tend to find that a lot of people do lose some of their working class accent as they go through the education system, and that might be where that's from.
Yeah.
I mean, my accent changes depending on who I'm talking to.
Depending on how pissed I am.
Well, if I talk to my dad, most of you folks wouldn't understand what I'm talking about, because my dad talks broad Lincolnshire, and it's pretty much only when I'm talking to my dad I slip right back into that, because that's my roots. But as I grew as a teenager and a young adult, I kind of lost that accent because it was holding me back. You know, when I was living in Switzerland working for a Swiss guy, he'd plenty of work to understand any English, never mind broad Lincolnshire. So I kind of lost that, and I spoke as correctly as I could. And then I came back to Lincolnshire after I'd finished doing that, and everybody's going, "Why are you talking posh?" I'm not talking posh. This is where I talk. No, you don't. You didn't fucking talk like that. Oh, okay.
It's who you end up with, isn't it? Because my accent will change from a Lee accent when I'm around Lathers to when I'm like come back from Liverpool today, and my accent changes. People say, "You've been round Scousers today," because of my family connections. When I'm with family, the accent changes. It's not something that you do thinking wise. It just seems to happen, and you don't notice it. But
did you have some chicken?
Some chicken? No.
Chicken?
Has anybody else noticed that we're 2 minutes over and the host of the show has gone?
I was said to you, when you said people said to you, you've been round Scousers today, is that because you're changing your voice, or because your fucking wheels have all gone? Anyway, I think we're done, aren't we, guys? Are we done, boys?
It's gone 9.
Hey?
It's gone 9.
It has gone 9.
Well, before you switch off, Jace, I'd just like to thank you and Paul for inviting me back on. I'd like to thank Adie for what he did for Raconteurs News, and it's been great having him as a friend since I got to know him through Jason. And I'd like to thank everybody who listens and has listened for the kind words and support that I've had all the way through doing what I was doing and since I left. I really appreciate every single one of you. It's not something I ever see myself coming back to doing. I might come on and have a chat with Webby and Jason now and again, but at the minute I'm happy being a granddad, and steam trains and watering sticks and stones in the garden is just my barrow at the minute. So thanks, guys. I've really enjoyed tonight.
Good stuff, mate.
Awesome. Adie, give us a last word, mate.
I just want to thank anybody who gives a fuck.
Okay. Well, that's all of us then, isn't it?
We all give a fuck.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
We all give a fuck. Well, that's been Raconteurs News 250, the special with Andy Young and Aid Hardy. We'll be back. Hey, what?
My mum used to tell me I was special.
Fucking right, I know, wasn't she?
Well, listen, everybody, listen. Big thanks to Adie and to Andy, and also Webby as well, as usual. We'll be back with 251 on Monday. We've got nobody booked at the moment, but we will have by this time next week. Well, by yesterday next week. So they're on. They can come on Monday, and we don't have to time travel. Fucking doing that again. Anyway, right. We'll see you next week. Thanks to everyone who's been listening in the chat room. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, or give us a thumbs down if you thought it was wank. And we'll see you next week. Ta-ra a bit.